This tree came down after the earthquake.
Frank Ryan didn't expect his arbutus to fall victim to this morning's earthquake.
Probably just going to cut up the tree for firewood. And
it was a minor shake that started 50 kilometers from his home on the Malahat, but it was enough to take down his tree that he admits was already rotting and destroy his dock. Thousands in BC and in Washington state were woken up from a 4.1 magnitude earthquake. Its epicenter was near Orcas Island and felt across the island and the mainland. It's now the third earthquake islanders have felt in the last 2 weeks.
Lots of rumbling, lots of shaking for about 10 seconds.
Seismologist John Cassidy says the shaking is something he hasn't seen in decades.
To have 5 or 10 seconds of very distinct shaking, we probably have to go back nearly 20 years to the Nisqually earthquake, which was a much larger, further away earthquake. It was a 6.8 near Seattle.
Aftershocks should be expected, but Cassidy says it doesn't mean the big one is coming.
It doesn't tell us that we're closer to a big one. It doesn't tell us that we're less likely to have a big earthquake.
You might have extra socks.
But what it does tell us is everyone needs to be prepared. Shortly after the rumbling, the Emergency Operations Center in Saanich got more than a dozen calls asking what happened, as well as people wanting to sign up for an upcoming emergency preparedness seminar.
So just after 5 a.m., we had 8 spaces remaining. Within about an hour, we were down to 5 spaces remaining. And by 7:30, we were full with a wait list.
Public interest in preparing for the next disaster has increased, including those wanting to update their emergency kits.
Likely, after an earthquake, the safest place will be to stay home. And so things that you would want to have in your emergency kit at home are food. You want to have water, flashlight, radio, first aid kit, batteries, anything you might need to stay at home for 7 days.
If a disaster struck, their emergency operations center will be activated immediately, with nearly 200 people working around the clock. Their first task will begin just seconds after the ground shakes.
Is there risk of a tsunami? Because that will impact our initial actions. It will help us understand if we need to evacuate our tsunami hazard zones.
Until that day comes, Saanich says it can help, from courses to kits. The priority is to be prepared for when a bigger quake hits.